Hi guys, welcome to Collective. What an amazing journey we are going to travel together. Thank you for continually watching us online for all our video sermons. I pray that it will greatly empower and strengthen your walk and your life in Jesus Christ. So join us, be a part of us, whether physically in our church or online through the internet. May your life be greatly blessed this year.
So, we've been on this journey this past few weeks on the series of Jesus W. Have you enjoyed this series so far? I personally have loved this series, partly because I was part of the team that came up with the series. And I think the best messages to me to preach or to share are messages that I want to hear myself. It's not something that just sounds good or sophisticated, but it's something that I really want to hear myself as well. And to talk about the humanity of Jesus has been something that I've been really, really interested in. And the humanity of Jesus and his divinity are not separate things. They are two sides of the same coin. Okay, you can't have one without the other. But I love it that we actually look at this aspect, because sometimes when we view God or when we view Jesus, we see a mythical figure. We see a superhero figure. We see someone so distant, so far away. But actually God is close, and God is near, and God feels you, and God hears you, and God is your friend, and God is closer than a friend actually. And I'm glad that we got to learn about this aspect of Jesus. And sometimes we even forget that Jesus was a person. He actually existed. He came here on earth. So before I go on, I'm just going to take a trip down memory lane and to just look at what we have learned so far. So last weekend, we actually learned Jesus. Okay, here's you're already going to help me out a bit. Jesus. So we learned that there is no task too low for Jesus. How much more should we humble ourselves to serve him and others? If he washed his disciples' smelly feet, how much more should we serve? And then before that, we learned Jesus waited. Pastor Andrew preached a great message on Jesus being our good shepherd, the one who will not abandon us in our time of despair. He will leave the 99 while waiting for the one that strayed. And then we learned that Jesus got wearied. I mean, how many guys feel weary? How many guys feel tired? I do. And Jesus himself, the man, felt tired. But he came to lift our burden. He offers rest, not cessation of toil, but peace and fulfillment and a sense of being put right. It's not the absence of toil, but rest that comes upon you supernaturally. We learned that Jesus wept. Jesus Christ wept. Jesus was divinity joined to human vulnerability. He felt for Mary and Martha in the death of Lazarus. He was there with them, journeying through them before he performed the supernatural miracle of raising him from the dead. He met their emotional needs first. And we learned that Jesus walked from the story of, on the road to Emmaus. And when we allow Jesus to walk with us, our hearts will burn for the things of God as well. And I think that was such an impactful sermon for all of us, because we went home asking ourselves, are our hearts burning for Jesus still? And then the sermon that started it all, Jesus was a real man. He came to earth. He came from the limitlessness of God to a place of the powerlessness of man. From God Almighty coming to take the seemingly weakness of man, he came to be with us. So today is pretty much a wrap-up of the whole series. I'm going to do my best. And we started with the first chapter of John, which is like a prologue to the whole book of John. And we're going to end today in the last chapter of John, John 21, which is like an epilogue. So I'm going to give you the setting of the story. So in John 21, this is after Jesus has risen from the dead. And we have the disciples. They were fishermen before this. They had a fishing business. So they actually went on in their fishing business. Okay? They didn't do whatever Jesus commanded them to do. They went on in their fishing business, and they went out to the sea, and they caught nothing that night. So daytime already, they were coming back to shore. And then one guy from the shore, it must be quite near then, he called out, hey, why don't you let your net out again and try to catch more fish? So they let the nets out, and fish just appeared out of nowhere. They caught 153 fishes. It was a miraculous catch, and that was probably the last recorded miracle in the Gospels. So when that happened, one of the disciples, I think it was John, told Peter, "Hey, I think that is the Lord." And Peter, you know Peter lah. He just act before he thinks on. So knowing it's before the Lord. Okay, if you can see someone at the beach, you would think it's quite near already, right? But then no, this is what he did. He jumped into the sea to swim to shore. And one of the versions of the Bible actually says he was athletic. So he jumped into the sea. How many of you have actually swam in the sea before? Raise your hand. Swam in the sea before? Any triathletes here? You swam in the sea? I have swam in the sea before. Actually, it's more like sinking in the sea. Hey, swimming in the sea is really, really hard. On my sabbatical, I was actually in Bali. I was in Bali for a month. And I stayed in this place called Canggu. Canggu is actually a place where surfers go to surf. So, okay, it's a really nice place and all. And every morning, I would just go to the beach. Okay, those of you who have heard this story before, please pretend you never heard it and act excited as well, all right? Okay, so every morning, I'll just go to the beach and I'll just sit down there, chill, and then when I feel like going to the water, I'll go into the water and I'll come out again, sit on the beach, read my book, chill. And then, okay, guys, especially guys, when you're on the beach, you know when you want to go into the water one, right? Is when you feel like peeing. Correct or not? Come on, guys, come on. Don't get quiet on me right now. So in one of those moments, okay, and maybe some girls as well. Let me not leave you out, okay? Yesterday, right, I pointed out a girl, she's my colleague, she's my friend, very dear to me. I pointed her out, hey, you also feel like that, right? She offended, oh. I'm like, hey, don't bluff, I'm sure you did as well. But anyway, yeah, so one of those moments, I felt, okay, I feel like I needed to go, but there's no toilet, so let me go into the water again. I went to the water, swam, oh, the water quite cold. Hey, after that, quite warm already. You know why, lah. And so, I love going to the sea, and the waves are just coming in. I'll just dive into the wave, and then the wave comes again. I'll just dive in, and after a while, I just never realized, but I was quite far from the shore. I could still see my back there, but I was quite far, and I couldn't touch the ground anymore. I got a bit worried, and the waves were just so rough. Remember, I was in a place where people go to surf, and it was just so rough. It was just pounding me. You know what? I got to swim back already, lah. Try to swim back, and I just wasn't moving. I tried to swim back, and I just wasn't moving. Actually, I was drowning. I felt like I was really drowning, and I was being overcome. You know, they say in times like this, you read online the stories, the articles of how they handle emergencies. Number one thing, you got to stay calm. Hey, lying one are they all? In those moments, right? How do you stay calm? But I told myself, okay, you know what? Stay calm as best as I can. Breathe underwater. How to breathe, right? breathe. And I was just praying. It's one of those, don't have like, oh dear Father God, I just thank you for today. Thank you for the day at the beach today. I pray you save me right now. No, it's not that. It's God save me kind of prayer. And you know what they say as well, that when you're going to die, your life flashes before your eyes. It's a lie as well. It doesn't happen. But one thought that came into my mind was that I had a brother who drowned 20 years ago. And I was just praying. I said, God, save me right now. This has happened to my family before. I cannot die this way. Save me right now. While struggling with the waves and all. And maybe this is angels, I don't know. But then I saw two surfers paddling back to shore. Then I said, okay, this is it. Then I was just frantically waving. I was just waving. And then in that moment, right, I don't know why, it's like I was very embarrassed to shout. It's like, hey, want to die, he's still shy, Like, but I held myself back from shouting. I'm like, I don't want, very shy. I don't want to shout. I don't want to be that guy screaming for help. I was just waving. And one of them, actually both of them, they turned and then they saw me. So this is what they did. They turned. They saw me. And they went forward again. I'm like, wow. It's like, you angmo cannot understand my signal, is it? But after that, really cannot. Then I became that guy. I actually screamed and shouted, help! And one of them actually came back for me. And he paddled back on the surfboard. He came, and then when he reached me, he came off his surfboard, and both of us just held onto the surfboard. I'm like, oh my gosh, God is real. Oh my gosh. And then okay. He said, okay, you ready? Ready? All right, let's try to swim back to shore right now. And we both tried to swim, but the waves were just so strong that we couldn't swim back. And he said, this is not working. Why not I get on my surfboard and you just hold onto the leash? I paddle back, and then you just be dragged back by me. And I said, okay. So I held onto the leash, he dragged me back, and I've never been so thankful for sand in my life. once I reached the sand, once I reached the beach, I touched ground. I almost kissed the ground, but I didn't. I was too tired. And I just say, hey, thanks for saving my life. And he's like, yeah, be careful. He must be like, stupid. This is a place for surfing, not swimming. So he left, and I just lie down and, my God, what just happened? What's the point of telling this story? Just to say that swimming in the sea is very, very hard. So Peter must have been very, very athletic. Okay, let's go on to our story again. So Peter jumped into the water, and he reached the shore, and Jesus was there waiting for him. And he said, hey, come, have breakfast. I've already prepared the fish, ikan panggang, I've already prepared it, got bring chili sauce or not. Okay, I don't know whether they eat chili sauce that time, but yeah, so fish and bread. And the disciples after that joined them. So one interesting thing was that, they see him. This guy has really risen from the dead. Our rabbi, our leader, our teacher, our Lord has risen from the dead. But none of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? They knew it was. So they didn't really touch that topic of him rising from the dead. And Peter, if you know Peter, usually so bold, usually so straightforward, he also didn't dare talk about it. Okay, this is the setting for the main text of today. If you would just turn with me or look at the screen, we're going to go John 21, verses 15 to 19. Hey, if you dare say yes. Hey, if you dare say yes. All right, I'm just going to read it to you. So this is a story where Jesus reinstates Peter. Or in other versions, it says Jesus restores Peter. When they had finished eating, verse 15, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than this? He's not asking Simon if you love me more than the fish, or more than the bread, or more than your fishing business. He was asking Peter, do you love me more than these disciples love me? All right? And Peter said, yes, Lord. He said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time, he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Then Jesus said again, feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, he was speaking to his future right now. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands. Someone else will dress you, lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to Peter, follow me. Follow me. I think it's really beautiful that at the end of the Gospel of John, that the book that we've based our series on, ends this way. It ends with an epilogue that really shows a very relational and emotional exchange between Peter and Jesus. And it really showcases Jesus' human touch. And it reminds us again of why Jesus came in human form. And just want to bring the word of God to you in John chapter 1 again. Why did Jesus come in human form? It says in John 1:14 and 16 to 17 that the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father full of grace and truth. That out of his fullness, we have all received grace in place of grace already given. Just grace and more grace and more grace. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And just to give a different flavor of this verse, looking at the Passion Translation, verse 14, it says, and so the living expression became a man and lived among us. I loved it when Tabby's no more around. When I says it, Tabby said that one of the expressions of giving is serving. And when Jesus came to become man, this is the living expression of God, becoming man and living among us. And in verse 17, it says that Jesus, the Anointed One, unveils truth wrapped in tender mercy. So when we say grace and truth, it's not really grace and truth, but it's truth wrapped in tender mercy or grace. It's one thing. It cannot be separated. And looking at this exchange between Jesus and Peter, their conversation, it really shows me a masterclass in human relations. It really showed me how Jesus how Jesus won Peter's heart, how Jesus won Peter with grace and truth. See, Jesus won Peter with grace. And what is grace? Grace is a simple word, but with deep, deep meaning. Grace is simply unmerited favor. You don't deserve it. It's the opposite of karma. Karma is, okay lah, yeah, you deserve it lah. Yeah, you got what you deserve. That's karma. Grace is getting what you don't deserve. It's getting what you don't deserve and not getting what you do deserve. That is grace. And just last week, I had an experience. I had a glimpse of what grace truly is. So one of the mornings, I was working out, and usually a few times a week, I'll work out with Adeline, if you know Adeline Hong. So we work out in the gym in the morning, and after gym, we'll usually go for breakfast. And if you know this place well, we usually go to Hosanna. But because it was so hazy these past few weeks, Eddie and I, we said, hey, no lah, I don't want to go Hosanna lah, open air, hazy, very bad. So we actually went to Good Taste in SS14. So going there, I drive, the main road, then I go into the smaller road, SS14, and I'm a Klang guy lah. Klang guys are the worst drivers lah, okay? We will park anywhere got space one. Got line, no line, doesn't matter one. So I saw this place, no line, I park there. But Eddie, being the proper person, being the better person, said, hey, don't park like that lah. Find a proper parking spot. I'm like, okay lah. So I came out from that spot, and then, okay lah, the front part don't have parking spot. So let me go to the back part. So I took the small lane. Okay lah, I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, but the small lane also I broke the rule because that one is one-way one. I went the other way. So I went to the small lane, and we were talking about something, and then while coming out from that lane, suddenly as I made a turn, pam, hit another car. And then when I saw the other car, there's a lady driving the car inside, and she was just going like this. And I thought, oh my God, is she going to have a heart attack or not? I'm like, and then I came down and I said, hey, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? She said, yeah, I'm okay. I just had a bit of shock. I'm okay. And then after that, I saw an uncle coming out. He came out. I thought he was just being very nice. He came out to see if everything's okay. But actually, I didn't realize it. But when I hit that car, the other car, that car that I hit another car. And that car was parked, stationary. And uncle was just having his breakfast at Yuki Bakute. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I look at his car, it was a bit dented, the door there, and the paint was also a bit off. I said, hey uncle, you know what, let me know how we can settle this. And this is just such a classic, not a classic, but a class act. He just looked at me and say, you know what, it's okay lah, it's okay. Very small only. I said, hey, not very small though. But he said, no, it's okay, very small. And he just walked back to his table and continued eating his bakute while I settled with the other lady. So, uncle, if you're watching this by some point, thank you so much for your grace. and that is grace. The most innocent person, the person who doesn't deserve anything at all in terms of the bad things, he said, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. Such an act of grace. And I really, really appreciated that act of grace. You see, Jesus showed grace to Peter. And why didn't Peter deserve this grace from Jesus? The background of this was before Jesus was captured and crucified. When he was captured and then crucified, there was this part where Peter denied Jesus 3 times. And if you know the story well, those of you who grew up in church, you will know this story. And growing up, I always wondered, why is this denial such a big deal? Why such a big deal? I just say, hey, I don't know him, Nima. Why was this such a big deal? And it was such a big deal because of who Peter was to Jesus. Peter was one of the closest. Peter was the leader of the disciples. Peter was the guy, again, like I said, he just takes action. He just go do it. You don't think so much, I'll just do it. He is the one who is walking on water with Jesus. Nobody else walked on water. And he was the tightest of the tightest among all the disciples. He is the one who went up there on the Mount of Transfiguration as well, together with James and John. He was one of the closest. He was the one who got the revelation of who Jesus was. And he was the one who told Jesus as well, you know what, Jesus, if all else fall, everyone else falls, I won't fall. In fact, he even told Jesus, hey, Jesus, you know what, I will die for you lah. Don't worry, I won't just serve you, I will die for you. And that is why the act of denial was such a serious thing. And growing up, after having experienced life a bit, I really have experienced this pain as well. And I think all of us can attest to that. All of us can testify to that and say that, you know what, yeah, I know what it feels like to be betrayed by someone. I know what it feels like to have a true friend disappoint me. I know what it's like to have a spouse disappoint me, or a girlfriend, or a boyfriend, or a parent, or a child disappoint me, and feeling betrayed as well. And sometimes I wonder, you know, whatever that Peter did, whatever Peter said to Jesus, you know, I'll follow you all my life, I'll lay down my life for you, I will die for you. He said all this in front of Jesus. But when Jesus was captured and taken away, when Jesus was no more there, what did he do? So I felt sometimes, right, you know what, Judas, he betrayed Jesus in front of Jesus. But I felt this could be like a betrayal behind Jesus. That when you're not there, when all else fails, this is what happens. This is what I do to you. And why is it so significant as well? Because I've never really realized this. But in the third denial that Peter did, Jesus actually heard that denial. If you can just go to Luke 22, verses 60 to 62. I'll just read it. In the third denial, Peter was just saying, hey, you know what? I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know who you're talking about. And just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed as Jesus prophesied. And that's when the Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Peter remembered the word of the Lord had spoken to him, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Imagine not just betraying someone, but betraying someone thinking that they're not there, and then having that person just look at you and, man, when I'm around, you say all these things. You'll die for me. You're with me. You're always loving me. I'll love you to the moon and back. How many of you have said that before? I love you 3,000. Yeah, in front of me, you say all these things. But then behind my back, you said you don't even know me. And unfortunately, I heard the last time you said that. So can you imagine the scenario? That's why the breakfast at the beach was so awkward. This was the last thing that Peter did to Jesus. This was the last thing that he did to someone who was so close to him before he died. This was something that he did, he thought he could never have a chance to rectify. Such a deep regret in his life. That's why he went out and he wept bitterly. So Peter didn't deserve the way Jesus treated him. And that's why that is grace. See, for the repeated times that we fail him, he repeatedly pursues us. And you know what? Jesus never ever questioned the status of the relationship between Peter and him. Jesus never questioned that status. You know, for us, the thing that we'll do is this: if someone hurts you, if someone disappoints you, if someone betrays you, and when we find out about it, we change the status of the relationship immediately. We don't say it out loud sometimes, but in our hearts we know, you know what, this guy I cannot trust anymore. You know what, this guy, that's it. I struck him off my life. No more. We change the status between us because of a hurt, because of a disappointment. But Jesus never did that with Peter. You know why? He just went there and said, hey, do you love me? When Peter said yes, he didn't even question it. And he just said, feed my lambs. Which means, you know what? Go on being that leader. Go on being the pastor of that church that I'm going to build. No question of the change in status between Peter and Jesus. And this is really, to me, what word becoming flesh is. See, word becoming flesh is not just a concept. It is very simple. Word becoming flesh is simply God walking his talk. It's simply God walking his talk. And it's interesting that Peter was the one who actually asked Jesus, hey, you know, in the topic of forgiveness, how many times should we forgive someone? And Jesus said 70 times 7. And this was a chance for Jesus to become really the Word, becoming flesh, to be the living expression of the teaching because of the way he forgave Peter. Just observing that conversation, a few things came out in my mind. First thing, Jesus went to Peter, not the other way around. Usually for us, if we think that I'm the one in the right, he's the one who wronged me, she's the one who wronged me, why should I be the one to take that step? Why should I be the one to take the initiative to go and say sorry? I am in the right. And therefore, because you think you're in the right, you have the right to stay and wait. And the person has to come to you. But Jesus never did that. In fact, what Jesus did was simply giving up his right to say, you know what? I'm going to go to Peter. I'm going to go pursue Peter. This is how Jesus did it. Another thing that I noticed in the conversation as well, Jesus never even asked Peter, why? Why did you do that? Why did you deny me? Why did you even say you don't know me when all the things you have said talks about your loyalty? Why did you say that? And it's not that we shouldn't ask why. I think there are many times in life where why is a very important question to ask. Those of you who work with me know that I like to ask why a lot. Some things are really important to ask why. Like, for example, if you're driving and you see some emergency indicator blinking, I think you should ask why. It's very important. Your car might crash next. So you should ask why. When your TV is broken, it's not working, you should ask why, and then try to fix it. If the organization is not working, if your business is not making profits, I think you should really ask why. So it's really important to ask why when it comes to some things. But when it comes to issues with someone, I think asking why is never the best question to start with, in most cases at least. Because when you ask someone why did you do this? Why did you do that? First of all, it puts that person on the defensive. Now I have to come up with an answer. Now I have to come up with an answer why I did that. I have to come up and defend myself. You know what? I did this because it was hazy that day. I did this because of this, because of that. I put someone on the defensive. Another reason, which is very practical, why is not the best question to ask is because sometimes we don't even know why. I mean, we humans are complex. Just because I tell you why, does it really mean there's a reason why? I really don't think so. We humans are just so complex that we don't even understand the motivations of why we do certain things. So even if you hear the why, does it really help? And let's just say, imagine if you really get the true why, like why this person did such and such a thing. Okay, you got your answer, you're satisfied. But how does it make the other person feel? In what position does it put the other person right now? You know what? Why I did it? I'm just bad. I'm just evil. I'm just no good. How do you actually make that person feel? You actually relegated that person down. So why is simply not the best question sometimes, I feel, when it comes to human relations. Perhaps a better question to ask is how? Hey, how can we fix this? How can we do better? How can we move on? So, but is feeling bad or feeling not so good a bad thing? No, I don't think so, because if we learn from this conversation as well, that Peter didn't feel very good. But not because of what Jesus did to him. He felt it himself. Because Jesus didn't just win Peter with grace. He won Peter with truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. In verse 17 of that chapter that we read, the third time Jesus asked Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was hurt. Peter was disappointed. Peter was dejected because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? And many times we don't like difficult conversations. And we think that if it's God saying something to me, if it's God talking to me, it will always be nice. It will always be happy. It will always be smiley. But it's not the case. Sometimes God will say things that will hurt you, that will disappoint you, because it's the truth. And it's the truth that you and I need to hear. And this is what true friendship is. A true friend lays down the truth even when the truth hurts. If you don't have that kind of friends, you need to find the kind of friends. If you don't have the kind of friends, maybe first start by being the kind of friend. If you have a friend who has never made you feel uncomfortable, never made you feel sad, never hurt you, I really question the depth of that friendship. I think sometimes as friends, as human beings, we just want to make things comfortable. I don't want to go through that tough part. I don't want to be in that awkward situation. And perhaps we care more for the friendship than we care for the friend. Because my aim is just to preserve that friendship. My aim is just to preserve things between us being okay. But if there's a truth that I need to speak into your life, I have to love you perhaps more than I love the friendship, and risk it. And risk you being angry with me, risk you being disappointed with me because I laid down the truth if I really, really loved you that much. And that's how Jesus approached Peter as well. Jesus approached Peter with grace. Jesus approached Peter with truth. But if all we have is truth, then all we have is just judgment. We've got to have one and the other. And this is the mistake that I've made, and I've learned it the hard way as well. I've always pursued truth. I've always pursued, hey, you know what? We need to go to the facts of the matter. We need to go to the truth. But another thing that I observed is that Jesus himself, although he pursued with truth, he never brought up the facts of Peter's denial. He never brought up the facts and said, hey, you know what? This is what happened. You denied me 3 times. Was there any more time that wasn't recorded? Did you do this? Did you do that? He didn't go into the facts. And guys, let's not confuse facts with truth, because facts live in the past, but truth is timeless. Facts live in the past, but truth is timeless. Jesus approached Peter with truth about his past, yes, but also his present and also his future. That's why he said, feed my lambs. That's the truth right now. You're still who you are. You're still who you are. You're still the leader. You're still that person in my life. And he spoke about his future, which will be purposeful, which will be meaningful, which will bring glory to God. And Chris Hodges, one of the leading pastors in America, says this, that truth without grace is mean, but grace without truth is meaningless. Truth without grace is mean, but grace without truth is meaningless. And I've also often wondered, why did Jesus ask Peter 3 times, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Was Jesus being petty? I really don't think so. And I think it wasn't because Jesus needed convincing as well. Like he needed to convince himself, okay, you know what, you say 3 times already, okay, you know what, I'm convinced you love me. No, the one who searches all hearts, the one who knows everything, does he need Peter to repeat so many times, I love you, I love you, I love you? It wasn't Jesus who needed convincing, but it was Peter who needed that conviction. Peter himself needed to have that conviction, you know what, I really, really love you, Jesus. I really, really love you despite the fact that I betrayed you that way, despite the fact that I disappoint you. I really, really love you that way. And that is truth. See, he had to do that because Peter needed to see the truth as how Jesus saw it. Peter needed to see the truth as how Jesus saw it. And I want to tell you today, if you're here right now, and this is the truth, that God says that you are loved, you are precious, you are embraced, you are worthy. And this can be just mere words if you just leave it hanging in the air. But if you really see it as truth, and maybe one of the ways that we see it as truth is just to be like Peter, just keep on repeating it, just keep on repeating it. Words have power, words have creative power, words have power over our lives, our thoughts, and then our actions. If you can just repeat this, you know what, I am loved, I am worthy, then no matter what I do, no matter how I fail, no matter how I do here right now, standing here in front of you, I know that I am loved, I am worthy, I am called by God. Let us see truth as how Jesus sees it in us. Can I get an amen for that? Come on, you guys are getting quiet on me. Can I get an amen on that? So Jesus won Peter with grace and with truth. And every time when we think about winning, we can't help but think of winning in terms of a competition. We can't help but think in terms of winning a battle, winning a war, and winning a fight. I love boxing. I love watching boxing. So yeah, sports. And Jesus has won the victory for us over sin, over death. He died on the cross. He rose up from the grave. And He is risen. He is resurrected. He is Lord. If not, there's no point doing whatever that we do here. And He's already done that. But it's interesting to me that after having done that, He still came and showed us a story of how He portrayed His humanity, how He portrayed the human side of Him. And even on the cross, He knew what it was like to be human. He knew what it was like to be abandoned. He knew what it was like to be alone there, because on the cross, He actually cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? The agony that He felt was not just the pain on His body, the stripes that He bore, or the nails on His hands and feet, but the agony that He felt, which I think is even worse than all the physical agony, is actually that, God, hey, I thought we were close, I thought we were tight, I thought we were this, but why at this moment have you forsaken me? And you're there sitting right now, and maybe you have those same thoughts as well. Maybe you have actually felt those same things. Why have you forsaken me? I thought we were close. I thought you were this to me. You promised me this, but why now have you abandoned me? Why now have you betrayed me? Why now have you forsaken me? On that cross, He felt that. And He died, and then He rose again. So winning the victory over sin and death, I know He has already won that. But part of that battle is actually winning your heart. Part of that battle is actually going and pursuing your heart, winning your heart. And I think that is the most important part of the battle that Jesus would win. The most important battle that Jesus would win is the battle for your heart and mind, because the battle to win your heart is one that Jesus set Himself up to potentially lose. The very fact that you and I could reject Him, that's what makes this battle so important, to win your heart, because He made the rules. You know what? I can potentially lose this guy, but I'm still going to come. I'm still going to do whatever I do, although I know I set myself up with the rules that I could lose. Why make it so hard, Jesus? Why? Why can't you just do what you did, get on the cross, die, rise again from the dead, and settle it? That's it. Why must we have this part of the battle? And the answer is really, really simple. But if you really get it in you, it could be just profound. It's simply because love. It is simply because love. It's because love that I have to do this. It is because love, these are the rules that apply. And because love can never be forced. And love can never be manipulative. And love is loving someone even though that person will hurt you, that person will disappoint you, that person will betray you. And love is taking that risk over all that. And love is also taking the risk. Risking that, you know what, even though if I love you, you may not love me back. And also that you may never ever love me back. That is love. Not coming to you in power, coming to you showing that I can feed the 5,000, coming to you showing that I can rise from the dead. No, love is winning you again and again, winning your heart. It's just like how a man pursues a woman. The other word for this is woo. How does a man woo a woman? Is it by driving a fast car, showing that, you know what, I'm a CEO of this company, I can do this and I can do that. Yeah, it may be impressive for a while, but at the end of the day, it is still your heart that I must win. It is still your heart that I must pursue. And this is why the battle for the human heart can never be won by sheer power, but by persuasion. It can never be just power. It is persuasion. And by coming in human form, Jesus lost everything he had just so that he could win your heart, which is everything to him. He lost everything he had just to come here and win your heart, which is everything to him. I don't know how this message hits you today. You maybe you're imagining yourself in the position of Jesus right now, knowing what it's like to be hurt, knowing what it's like to be disappointed, knowing what it's like to be betrayed. Or maybe you are standing here or sitting here looking at it through the lens of Peter. You know what? Whatever that you say about Peter, that's me. That's what I've done. That's how I've hurt my mom. That's how I've hurt my dad. That's how I've hurt my spouse. That's how I've hurt my best friend. In front of them, I say I love them 3,000, but behind them, I hurt them 3,000. Maybe that's who you are today. And I know we are so complex and different. All of us would have experienced that at some point. I have been on both spectrums as well. And where do we go from here? See, there's no point having God come in human form as truth wrapped in tender mercy. If all we do is just say, okay, what, good story, thank you, bye-bye. But no, God has won my heart, and God is winning your heart, and God has won your heart so that you could do the same to another person. And this whole story is the story of the restoration of Peter. You know, to be restored doesn't mean to go back to the way things were. I know some things are just broken beyond fixing because it is not your call as well. A relationship has to involve at least two persons. And sometimes you really have no choice. So restoration is not really restoring something back to what it was. Not that it cannot be, and not that it cannot be better. But restoration is actually the restoration of your heart. That your heart, no matter how things were broken, no matter how things have just been long gone past, that your heart can be restored and made whole again, even though if things never change. And that is what true restoration is. Can we just stand on our feet right now?
Thank you for checking out our online sermon. If the message has truly impacted and empowered your life, it is my desire that you sow into the work of our church so that you can partner with us as we continually reach out to our world for Jesus Christ and extend the arms of love of Christ. So if you're giving, you can give online, or you can do a direct transfer, and all the information that you need is on the screen. So God bless you, and thank you for partnering with us.